The next part of the DiamondCutterSutra is very cool. The Buddha says to Subhuti, Subhuti, if any bodhisattva came up to you and said, and you asked the bodhisattva, what are you up to? And the bodhisattva says, I'm working to achieve my Buddha paradise. I'm trying to prepare my Buddha paradise so I'll have someplace to go when I get there. He says, if somebody said that to you, he would be a liar. Okay. He says that Dembamala says he wouldn't be speaking the truth. What he means is, of course, what? Yeah. If any bodhisattva came up and said to you, I'm working on my paradise, and if that paradise in that bodhisattva's mind was a self-existent paradise, he'd be a liar, because you can't get to a self-existent paradise because it's a gotcha. It's a gotcha, right? They don't exist. No such thing exists. If they say, I'm working for a self-existent Buddha paradise, they'd be a liar, because there's no such thing. That self-existent thing is non-existent. That's the irony of what causes our suffering. The irony of ignorance is that you are attached to something that don't even exist. It'd be okay if it was something that existed. It'd be a little bit easier to live with, you know. But we are responding to things that don't exist. A self-existent boss who screams at me externally to my own projection doesn't exist. And so my screaming back is predicated on believing in something that doesn't even exist. That's the hard part. I mean, that's the part that hurts the most, you know. I'm reacting to something that doesn't even exist. Then the Buddha says, he says, Buddha paradises don't exist. He says, that person would be a liar because Buddha paradises don't exist. The paradise of a Buddha does not exist. What's the punchline? Self-existent, right? But he doesn't say that. So, of course, this sutra has been interpreted all kinds of wild ways throughout history, and you can read many books, even books about this sutra, that interpret it in a quite unusual way, because that's a hard thing to understand. And then he says, because they don't exist, we can call them Buddha paradise. Which fits in perfect with this thing about imputation. You know? Because they don't exist independently of our imputations or projections, therefore we can call them Buddha paradises. If they existed in the other way, we couldn't call them Buddha paradises. Right. And what he's trying to say is, okay, they do exist. Of course they exist, but they exist in name only. They exist by imputation. They exist by your mind projecting onto certain parts or certain data a thing called Buddha paradise, and then calling it Buddha paradise. Is that something that you can do right now voluntarily, at will? No, it's forced on you by your past karma, by your past deeds. I thought you might be interested in a scenario. We got up to where? Where did we last leave our bodhisattva? 8th level, okay? 8th level. Got rid of your mental afflictions, got rid of their seeds. Only extremely subtle kinds of energies left for ignorance. Still have to reach the point where you can see all existing objects. Something's got to go on between level 8 and level 10. Okay, something's got to go on between level 8 and reaching full enlightenment. And at this point, the scriptures stumble. Okay? And all these Buddhist scholars in Tibet are trying to figure out exactly what happens during the last few moments. You know? And And pretty much they're in agreement that this is like so far beyond us that it's very hard for a human being who's not close to that to figure out exactly what's going on. So I'm going to give you a presentation from one of the Prajnaparamita scripture. This is as detailed as it gets, and it's a little like reading a science fiction story, okay? And you know, maybe it won't click or anything, and I'm just going to put it up here, and then you do the best you can with it, okay? This is from the scriptures. The process seems a little like science fiction, but it's almost impossible for us to imagine what it's like. So, 8 steps mentioned in that sutra, okay? 8 steps mentioned in this Prajnaparamita text. Apparently you're in some kind of pre-paradise called Ogmin, okay? Like you're very, very close to a total Buddha paradise, but you are in a paradise called Ogmin. This is the result of incredible amounts of virtue. You have been practicing the 6 perfections, and the result of that is called Shingdak Joro, which means the purification of your own Buddha field, your own Buddha paradise. So you're very close, and you are in a place called Ogmin. And it's the same for everybody. You will be in a place called your own Ogmin. I'll be in my Ogmin. Okay, like that. Yeah, you are in the direct perception of emptiness. It's called Pachimelam. And it's called, say, Gyunte? What's it called here? Gyunte Pachimelam. Gyunte? Pachimelam. Pachimelam means the direct perception of emptiness. Gyunta means, Gyun means the stream of your samsaric existence, and Ta means the final moment. Okay? So you are what we call a bodhisattva in the final moment of samsaric existence. That triggers 6 events. The next 6 events all happen at the same time. Okay. In general, you can divide all existing objects into the sum total of all existing objects and the real nature of all existing objects. This refers to number 1. So this being this is the first moment of enlightenment. This being is now perceiving directly every object that exists in the universe, either past, present, or future. Okay. You reach the final end. Final end here is called Yandakta. It's a big subject in Prajnaparamita. And it's a code name for the end of aging and death. Okay. This is the end of aging and death. Well, there are 10 bhumis total, and we're describing how you enter the 10th bhumi, which is enlightenment. Roughly. There's a big debate about it. Like, some people say 10, and then after that there's something else. And that's enlightenment. Some people say 10 is enlightenment. I think it gets fuzzy because you have to be there to know, I guess. They can't say grow or generate or develop the Dharmakaya, because the Dharmakaya is unchanging and can't go through a process of being smaller and getting bigger and then being complete like adult or something. It's just there. It's either there or it's not there. It passes from not being into being, but it doesn't go through a growth process or something like that. So it just comes into existence. Okay? It comes into existence at that moment. You have the Dharmakaya. Okay. Now how does this differ from number 3? I'm not completely sure. But it would now include the true nature of all objects, as opposed to just the total quantity of all objects. And what this refers to is the ability of a Buddha, which is unique to a Buddha, to see normal objects and see emptiness directly at the same time. Only a Buddha can do it. How they do it, I mean, when you get in the debate ground, we were talking about the other day, and you start to discuss perception or something, the first thing you always say is, Sangye Mayimba Shirshat, which means, let's not talk about Buddhas, okay? like, how do they do what they do? Very difficult. Very difficult to explain. The point here is that the body of that bodhisattva at the last moment of samsaric existence provides the raw material. It's that Nirlengi Gyu that we talked about last night. It's the stuff which turns into the enjoyment body. It flops over into the enjoyment body. Okay. Yeah. It is. You can't say Gyu though, please. No, you can't say cause. It doesn't have a cause. Okay. A little tricky. The basis changes, and that emptiness it's still the emptiness of your mind. That's true. But now your mind, if you want to get technical, has two extraordinary qualities. One is the emptiness that it always had, but now it is empty in another way as well. And that is that it is totally devoid of all obscurations, all obstacles. So in that case, the emptiness of the Buddha's mind is slightly different from the emptiness of your mind, although the thing which becomes the emptiness of the Buddha's mind you have now, and that is your Sugatigarbha. Okay. Number 8 is that the causes which will allow you to send out infinite number of emanation bodies are complete. What that means is that it implies that it takes another microsecond to send them out. Okay? They have to be sent out from an enlightened being. So that there's a gap. There's a time gap. You know, it takes a microsecond to get them moving. Because there's no enlightened being to send them out yet. Okay? Glass of liquid. Okay? There's a glass of liquid on the table. There's a preta, a human, and a worldly pleasure being sitting around it. And they all see a different thing. One of them sees water, one of them sees a glass of blood and pus, and one of them sees a glass of nectar of the gods. Okay? And every object in the world is the same. And at this point in the sutra, the Buddha says, you know, I'm not just talking about Buddha paradises. I'm talking about every object in the world. It's true of every object in the world that they don't exist, and because they don't exist, we can call them what they are. So really, now let's posit a fourth person sitting around the table, and that's a Buddha. Okay, and you've reached level number 10. You made it. You're sitting around the table. You're looking at the water, liquid. Real human bias. And what do you see? Well, you're aware of how other beings see them. You know, I mean, do you experience samsara as a Buddha? I mean, I had the honor of being the first debater on the day that Pabonka Rinpoche, the new one, took his Geshe exam. Because at the time I was the oldest non-Geshe in our college, and he's in our college. So I had the honor of making the first debate. And I said, do Buddhas experience samsara? And then he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, is he aware of what the other three people are seeing? Because what they're seeing is samsara. That's suffering. So if the Buddhas see what the other beings see, which he has to see if he's going to see everything, then isn't he experiencing samsara? You know, and is he aware of their pain, and doesn't that make him sad, and isn't that a kind of suffering? So it was like a 2-hour back and forth, and you have to think about it. But basically, you can say, I believe they say it in this way, samsaric objects can present them, they can be aware that you are perceiving these objects as samsara. But they don't experience them as samsara. They're aware that that's how you see them, but they can't see them that way. themselves. So that you're sitting around and you're a Buddha and you're sitting at this table in this special bar and you're seeing a glass full of total bliss. It's total bliss. The experience for a Buddha is that every part of every object that they perceive is creating total bliss in them. Okay. So it would be as if, I like to say, think of the most pleasant experience you ever had in your life. Everyone has 2 or 3 that they cherish, But I don't care if it's physical or mental or whatever. But imagine the moment of your life that you had the most extreme and intense pleasure. Maybe it lasted for 5 minutes or something. And then imagine that every single object in your life could trigger the same emotion in you all the time. That's how you have to think of a Buddha field. So like the flowers there and the leaves on the trees are provoking this intense bliss in them all the time. And every single existing object, the squareness of the paper, the whiteness, the thinness, the sharpness, the smoothness, every detail of every object is producing total bliss in that being. Okay. How could that happen? Okay, we have to talk about how could that happen. Very dear to our heart subject, It would be nice. The first question and now it becomes very simple to answer these deep questions. Is there 2 glasses of liquid on the table, or are there 4 glasses or just 1? It's just 1, okay? If you don't go deeper, is there... That's the right answer if I don't say if you don't go deeper. There's only 1 glass of water there. So now I ask you... Liquid, sorry. Yeah. Where is this paradise? And I mean specifically, do you have to go somewhere else? Now the answer becomes obvious. It's not like you have to ask the waitress to bring another glass of liquid. Okay? You're dealing with the data which is already present. That's one interesting point. Okay? In other words, Buddha paradise is not like 3 miles up there or 4 miles that way or something like that. The data for your paradise is around you now. It is your world. You don't need to go somewhere else to find the raw material. You just can't synthesize it in the right way right now because you're not being forced to by any ultimate karma, by all these collections of karma. The data is there. You could be experiencing this world in a completely different way. It's just your mind is not cooking up the right interpretation of that data. Okay? It's not synthesizing it in an ultimate way because it can't, because you don't have the karmas to do it. The karmic seeds are not there to force you to see it that way. And by the way, it sounds very artificial, and it is. But that's what makes it real, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay. One more point about that. And that pretty much wraps up Buddha paradise. Okay. What is the difference between samsara and a Buddha paradise? Why is samsara like this, and why is a Buddha paradise so much different? What's the basic difference between the two? What makes them different? Yeah. We call Lei and Nyomongi Wangi, okay? Lei and Nyomong. The 2 big troublemakers. There's an idea in Christianity called, what's it called, original sin or something like that. Like the world is defective from the start. We have a very similar idea. samsara, your body, your mind, my body, my mind, everything about me and the world I live in is defective from the word go. There's a basic defect. There's a certain energy in our bodies and our minds, in our world, which screws up everything, and has to and always will. I mean, until you get out. By the way, getting out of samsara now becomes a little tricky, right? You always thought it was like leaving L.A. What's it called? What movie are you going to see tonight? Where's that guy? Where's Ragnar? What'd you pick for tonight? Anyway, it's not like getting out, you know, it's not like you go anywhere. It's not like running away from anywhere. The world we live in and every experience that we are allowed to have now, that we are capable of, is defective. Because it's running from the engine of these two things. These two things are running it. They're calling the shots. They are producing your world right now. Lay means dirty karma. Okay? Impure karma. Sakcheki. And Nyomo means mental afflictions, and you had a nice introduction to them this morning. And they've been close friends for a long time. Okay? So these two are calling the shots. In any world where these two are calling the shots, if they are infecting your world, nothing's going to go right. Ultimately, you'll always have frictions with other people. Your body will be uncooperative. It'll keep getting older and uglier. You'll lose your sight. You'll lose your hearing. You lose your ability to taste things. You got to have triple strong coffee before you can taste anything. Can't do the things you used to do. Don't have the energy you used to have. And eventually one of those organs misfires and they take you to the hospital. And it has to go like that. Unless you do something now, there will be no other course of action. It must end up like that because it's being generated by karma and klesha, by karma and bad deeds. Okay? It was created. This body this kind of body was created by karma and bad deeds, by dirty karma. Okay? And it can only be that. It can't have any other end. And you can't be happy until you get rid of nyomo. It's impossible. You never will be, no matter how you adjust your life. And we spend our lives adjusting our lives. Maybe if I did a little more yoga, you know, maybe if I ate those other vitamins, you know, maybe if this guy would leave my office, you know, maybe if I just had a little more free time to myself, things would be all right. It's not going to be all right. Didn't you figure that out yet? I mean, you know, didn't it click yet? You know, you got to be 43 and you still didn't figure that out yet. You know, try a different partner. You know. Right. Exactly. She said, "What's dirty karma?" I said, "Good deeds without the knowledge of emptiness." Mm-hmm. Yeah. Basically, what does it create? It creates good dinners, which have as the tail of the dog getting hungry again. Okay. Always have. So now, on this basis, their answer that the two people gave was, yeah, this is what's the big difference between a Buddha paradise and samsara. Buddha paradise ain't got these two things running it. These two things are not generating a Buddha paradise. Okay? A Buddha paradise is being maintained. That projection is being maintained and perpetuated like fission, you know, less energy going in, more paradise coming out, by something which is totally free of mental affliction and karma, dirty karma. Okay? It's being generated by different causes. There's no taste of either one of these in what's keeping a Buddha field going. You know, in what's keeping a Buddha paradise up. You know, what's keeping it running doesn't have any one of these two. Therefore, there's no suffering there. Impossible. And there's a thing in the scripture that says there's a word missing in the vocabulary of those beings. They don't even have it in their dictionaries. And that's suffering. The word for that thing doesn't exist there because there's no such thing. Okay. Some people say that would be boring. It's not boring. You got all these emanation bodies to send out to trillions of worlds. You're quite happily busy, okay? It's not like static or nothing going on there. It's a lot of fun. Okay, and all those bodies going out and taking care of zillions of people, and at the moment when they're ready to have it. Okay, we'll probably take a break. Any questions? Right. And this is exactly what you asked. Okay, which is this. Well, basically, how you're going to get it to happen, and it's this. If you are that guy and you're having your fingers and arms cut off, or in the modern world, if your boss is screaming at you for losing out on a big deal for the company, same thing. And you just totally understand the emptiness, and you know that you don't want to perpetuate this thing, so you do not respond with violence. You know, you respond with, at best, with neutral, at least with neutral, at best with some kind of compassion. Suppose you start acting like that today. Suppose you can do it perfectly from today. Do you collect any new dirty karma? No, I'm talking total arhat. Never again a bad thought. Never again the slightest trace of a bad thought. Are you creating any more dirty karma? Do you have any karmic pockets? Yeah. Now there's a defect in the presentation. Okay. Okay. From the point of view that you're in an arhat on, you're not collecting any new bad karma, but you sure have a lot of old bad karma. How old is it? And I'll ask you this way: is it bad karma you created in this life, or is it bad karma you created in the life just before that, or is it bad karma that you created in every life before that? All three. Okay. Abhidharma says, of course, all three. You have all three in your karmic pocket. So now we have a problem. How long is it going to take to reach this Buddha paradise? No problem if you have. No problem if you could shut it all off now. In other words, what I'm saying is that we have to deal with new dirty karma, and we have to deal with big pockets of old dirty karma. Okay? To get to Buddha paradise, it's not enough to see emptiness now and start acting right now. It's not enough. That only deals with the new bad karma. We have to talk about how to get rid of old bad karma. According to the Hinayana, according to the lower schools, you cannot wear off that old bad karma. You can't accelerate it. You must experience it. There's no getting out of bad karma. You must go through all the bad experiences from the karma that you have stored up. You have to wait until it wears off. Could take many, many millions of years. Okay. You have to wait until it all wears off. That's the Hinayana position. Mahayana says something totally different. Mahayana says there is a method by which you can accelerate that karma or even short-circuit it. It's like, I always tell people it's like this movie I saw with John Travolta. It's about an atom bomb. What was that? Broken Arrow, yeah. And the whole movie is about atomic bombs about to go off and smart people turning them off at the last minute, you know? Like, here's this huge potential called an atomic bomb, and all these guys, good guys and bad guys, are always, you know, as the counter goes down on the readout, and you're sitting at the edge of your seat, you know, they always, Christian Slater, what's his name? No. You have to see movies. No. He's always able to tinker with it at the last minute. He's got guts. He doesn't run. No place to run anyway. And he's tinkering with it. And he's always, at the last 3 seconds, you know, he's always pulling out the right wire and it stops and the thing doesn't go off. That's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about how do you manipulate, how do you short circuit your old karma. You know, it's of great interest to people who have already learned how to not create new bad karma, which is where you're at now. You already know the trick to not creating new dirty karma. Now you just have to figure out how to short circuit the old bad karma, and you could reach paradise in this very life, in this existence. The glass of liquid could turn into a total bliss without going anywhere. And we just have to learn how to do that. Yeah? Nope. Okay, so we're going to take a break, and when you get back, we'll talk about, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. She said, suppose you're emanating as a Dalai Lama. Suppose the Dalai Lama is one of your emanation bodies that you're sending out. Then are you aware of the pain of getting old, getting bald, getting wrinkly, getting stooped over, losing your energy? Are you aware of that? The answer is, do you think he's experiencing his life that way? No. I mean, we don't know for sure. If you're an honest Buddhist, you know, if you're a logical Buddhist, you have to say, look, I don't know for sure. I don't know who he really is. I cannot vouch for who he is really. But based on the evidence I have that I can vouch for, and based on my knowledge of what enlightenment is like, and based on my knowledge of the glass of liquid in the bar, it's totally plausible and could very well be happening that he ain't experiencing his body at all the way you and me are experiencing it. Okay, and that makes sense. You know, if my mind is not purified yet, I could have the incredible good karma to have a Dalai Lama in the world. By the way, everyone who ever meets him, everyone who ever hears about him, and you could throw in Lama Sopa, Lama Usel, Lama Yeshe IV, if you have the experience to even hear about them or see them or hear something they said, and if they are walking on this planet, you already have an extraordinary amount of virtue. You know, like everybody on the planet, we talked about communal karma this morning. Everybody on this planet in 1996 has the communal karma to see the Dalai Lama walking around on the planet. And that's an incredibly powerful virtue. That virtue is wearing out. Okay? That virtue is wearing out. And as it wears out, you will see him get older and older. Okay? And when it reaches a certain point of weakness, that karma, you will see that Dalai Lama pass from this planet. Okay? And what he sees is totally, he's up in Dharmakaya, no problem for him if he's a Buddha. And you have to say if, you know. And he probably is from all I can see. But if you see this person getting old and passing from this planet, that's your good karma wearing out. In other words, you can't ride on good karma forever. You must take advantage of it while you got it. That's what they could talk about, a precious human rebirth. You know, your good karma, every moment that you're in this body, and every moment that you're in a class, and every moment that you're reading a scripture or being a Buddhist, you're wearing out good karma. And it will end. And if you don't do what you have to do before it wears out, you're out of luck. You know, to get this kind of karma back again is almost impossible. I mean, the scriptures say never again. And then they say, okay, 1 in a trillion, you know. But, lenchignyebe dewe denjo di. You know, lenchignyebe means only one time that you can get this kind of circumstances. And it's wearing out. Your Dalai Lama karma is wearing out. Your body karma is wearing out. Your Buddhism class karma is wearing out. And you will lose these beings. And then you'll be back to zero. You literally go back to zero. Okay. 2 questions, and we'll... By the way, you don't have to wait till the end. I mean, it could be next year. Okay. Yeah. Oh no, it does carry over. Absolutely, it carries over. I mean, any moment that you can pick up a Dharma book instead of picking up a newspaper, it's no waste of time. It's an ecology. Nothing is lost. I had a great Lama, Mongolian Lama, and he, just as he was passing away, he was reading elementary logic, and I said, Geshe-la, you're dying. Why are you reading the kindergarten book for the monastery? He said, gotta get ready, So, so nothing is lost, nothing is wasted. The slightest Dharma thing you can do is saved and stored and worth it, One more question. Oh, absolutely. But when you teach Dharma, you're supposed to be very pessimistic. So people will get off their rear ends and do something, But by being, absolutely. But to collect the amount that got you here is almost impossible. The odds are, they describe in the scripture something like 999 to 1 that you won't be able to pull it off. That you won't be able to pull off collecting as much good karma as created your present circumstances for the future. So you must do it now. You have to do it now. Huh? What's that? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, take a break, huh? There's this idea of a stupa, okay? Stupa, churten, like this stupa, and the idea is that the place is holy ground. If you go around this stupa in a certain way, or if you make prostrations to this stupa in a certain way, or you make offerings at this stupa in a certain way, then you collect some very good karma. It's very, very holy ground. And then the Diamond Sutra says that the next thing it says is that any place where this sutra is taught carefully and people are listening to it seriously, then that place becomes holy ground. That physical location becomes holy ground. So that's the good news. There's holy ground here now. Okay, where you have sat will always be holy ground now. So that's very cool, I think. Now to the bad news. The Buddha says, right after that he says, by the way, all the people who were in that place when that sutra was taught, because of the teaching of that sutra, will now experience extreme suffering. Okay, he says, anyone who was in that class, anyone who understood what was going on, they can expect some disasters in their life, okay? Like real suffering. And that's because the study of emptiness accelerates your bad karma. We're talking about your old pockets of bad karma, your pockets of old bad karma. You know, what are you going to do with these old karmas? Is there any way you can defuse them or get them to go off sooner in a lesser way or something like that? And the Mahayana says absolutely yes. Okay? And it's intimately connected with the study of emptiness. And when I heard it was a Hinayana Mahayana thing, I thought, oh, this is probably something that the Tibetan Lamas made up or something like that. You know, this thing about short-circuiting karma or wearing off karma, it's probably some later addition to the scriptures by somebody who was trying to be optimistic or something. I mean, Tibetan Buddhism is often, you know, people say, oh, that's just those lamas made that up, you know, or that's just those lamas trying to be a little more optimistic, you know. The process of short-circuiting your karma, the process of purifying your old bad karma, first of all, it's obviously taught in the DiamondCutterSutra, and you can read it, and it's there. And you don't have to take my word for it, you have it in your reading today, okay? The Buddha directly says, anyone who studies this subject deeply will suffer, because their old bad karma will accelerate, and it will ripen faster. So what's the use? I mean, maybe it'd be better to stretch it out a little. So you can, it's like, would you rather have one big root canal or 4 cavities, you know? I mean, it'd be better to stretch it out a little bit. Then the sutra says, well, but the second point is that it comes back in an infinitely lesser form. Okay, that when you accelerate it by the study of emptiness, and the karma comes back to you, it ripens on you quickly, it's infinitely less than it would have been if you hadn't studied the DiamondCutterSutra. And the example in the Chöni Lama quotes another sutra, is that if you had a karma in your karmic pocket that was supposed to lead you to a rebirth in the house, and if you studied this subject carefully and do the proper purification, which has 4 steps, and we'll talk about it, that karma which was going to lead you to hell will ripen as a headache in this life. Okay? Now, you're accelerating the karma, and the karma is coming back much, much less intense. So to learn that trick would be very important. We better get to it fast in case somebody dies. Say, Topshi. Topshi. Learn it well. Okay? Learn it now, learn it well. And then use it. I mean, there's two steps here. You have to learn it, and then you have to use it. Not many people ever learn it. Almost nobody uses it. Topchi. Top means force or power. Force. Top means force. Like energy. Strong energy. Force. Shi means four. So there are 4 steps to this process. 4 steps to getting a hell birth to turn into a headache. All right? Of great interest to us. All right? Not only from day to day, I mean, they would make you much happier immediately, but also in the process of getting to your Buddha paradise. You know, you use your knowledge of emptiness to prevent new dirty karma. And then you wipe out your old dirty karma with these 4 powers. And then you ain't got no dirty karma left, and you don't see a glass of water anymore. You see a glass of bliss. Okay? All right. Number 1. Say, Tengitop. Tengitop. This is called the basis force. Okay, the force of the basis. Basis force. By the way, the answer key here is messed up. Okay, it says basis force for all 4. Okay. Okay, all right. Just so you know, if you're grading papers. Okay, this is the basis force, and the idea is this: when you fall down, you have to have some solid ground below you to get back up. When you fall down, you have to have, if the ground was like jello, you couldn't get back up. The ground has to be, there has to be a firm foundation for you to get back up. The idea here is that you go back to the basics of Buddhism. And there's 2 parts here. One is you go back to taking refuge. You review what it means to take refuge. We had a taste of it the other day. You take refuge in what are 2 of the refuges? 2 of the refuge objects are what? It's Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, right? Dharma and Sangha are covered once you see emptiness directly. You become the objects of refuge. You are 2 of the 3 jewels the day that you see emptiness directly. When Buddhists all over the world take refuge in the 3 jewels, hey, you're 2 of them. They're taking refuge in you. Okay? Because Sangha jewel, not Sangha, but Sangha jewel is anyone who's seen emptiness directly. Their state of mind is the Dharma jewel, is jewel number 2. So you got it, 2 and 3 are covered already. The Buddha jewel you don't have yet because you didn't go through all those other levels. But the main Buddha jewel is the Dharmakaya, and you saw the Dharmakaya. You were in the presence of the Dharmakaya because you saw emptiness. Okay? So you've pretty much got like 2.5 jewels covered just by being yourself at that point. Okay? So you're taking refuge in those 3 objects. Go back to taking refuge. You are not taking refuge in some statue. You are not taking refuge in some book. Okay? Maybe in the contents of the book, but I mean, don't think of Dharma as a book. Don't think of the Buddha as some painting or some statue of a guy with a funny head or something like that. It's not the point. The main refuge is the knowledge of emptiness. Okay? So you go back to taking refuge. You go back to taking refuge. Why does it protect you? Why does that refuge protect you? If you understand emptiness, you are not going to retaliate. If you don't retaliate, you don't collect new bad karma. That's protection. That's refuge. That's the only refuge. That's the main refuge. Okay. That's the first half of the Tengitop. Second half of Tengitop is go back to bodhicitta. You know, go back and review what it is to have a deep compassion or a deep concern for other people's problems. Okay. Go back to that. Go back to those 2 basics, which is what Sangye Chodan Soki Chonama is all about. That is the practice. That is it. Go back to those 2. Review those 2. That's Tengitop. You get back up from that. Did you have a question? No. Okay. What is the second top? Say number. Sunjinbe. Top. Number. Sunjinbe. top. Nambasun Jimba means to rip something out. This is the force of destruction. The force of destruction. Okay. Nambasun Jimba means to tear something out from the roots. Okay. Translated as the destruction force. And at this point, most of the lamas give this cool explanation. They say, 3 guys are sitting at a bar. This keeps coming up, right? Haven't really been to one lately, but 3 guys are sitting at a bar, and the bartender puts out 3 shot glasses, and he says, "What do you have?" And they all say whiskey. So he takes this bottle of brown liquid down from the shelf. He's like digging through the shelf. He grabs a bottle, and he pours out the 3 shot glasses from the same bottle. And these guys are joking around, and they're all sitting there, and they all grab the shot glasses, and they click glasses, and they all down it in one gulp. You know, in Tibetan they call hoop cheek hoop. You know, and then after about 3 seconds, the guy on the first stool starts to go into convulsions. You know, and he falls over dead. And the bartender's like, "Oh my God, I gave you that nitric acid I had on the shelf," you know, and then the second guy is like, and he falls over dead, you know, and then the third guy is watching the first 2 guys, you know, and that emotion, right after the second guy falls off the bar stool, is sunjimbeto. Sunjimbeto means it's called intelligent regret. It means okay. It means that I shouldn't have drunk that, you know. It's the regret of an educated Buddhist. Okay? It's the regret of an educated Buddhist. If we have time someday, you have to study Abhidharma 4th chapter, which is how is karma planted in your mind? When you commit a karma, how is the seed planted in your mind? Unfortunately, the main requirement is that you be present when the karma is committed. The perception of yourself doing it plants it. And unfortunately, you're always present. So it's primarily the perception of yourself doing it which plants it. What it means is karma is absolutely unforgiving. Okay? If you do a bad deed and you're there when it's done, it's planted. That means it's no good, you know, locking the door of your room and doing it in the privacy of your own room, you know, because someone's still there. And that's you. So as far as non-virtues or bad karmas, it doesn't matter who knows or who doesn't know. It doesn't matter where it's done. It doesn't matter how sneaky you do it. It's still recorded. It's unforgiving. Yeah. 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 Well, like in the Vinaya, they discuss the idea of temporary insanity. Okay. Like if a monk actually goes crazy for some reason or another, usually it's grief. Okay. Someone close to him dies, and if under those conditions he does something, you know, while he's crazy and he's not even aware of exactly what he's doing or something like that, but he does not break his vows. Okay, if he does something that he's not supposed to do, but he's under temporary insanity, you don't break your vows. It's not breaking a vow. Okay, so that's very similar. Yeah. Yeah, as much as you are unaware, it's less karma. But it doesn't mean no karma at all, because there are other conditions for planning the karma. But mainly, to be there and to be conscious, and especially to be aware that it's not right, those are very bad conditions under which to do it. If you're going to do a bad deed, it's better if you don't know about it, and you don't know what it means. Okay, but anyway, I'm talking about the regret of a Buddhist who knows how karma is planted, knows exactly why this thing is wrong, knows what the result will be for him or her clearly, and then because of a klesha attack, okay, because of an attack of one of the bad thoughts, just can't stop themselves. And then the moment after you do it, you feel number sinjin betop. You get this regret, intelligent regret. So there's no place in Buddhism for guilt complex or low self-esteem or all that stuff. It's just this cold, calculated understanding that this is going to give me suffering in the future. And that it will. And I understand how I did it. I understand how the karma was planted. I understand how the karma will ripen on a blank screen. And I understand that it must come to me. And that kind of regret, understanding regret, saying, I screwed up, this is really bad, I shouldn't have done this. Just that very clear understanding of what you've just set into motion. You've just thrown a cosmic boomerang that way. And to know that it must hit this side of your head in some point in the future, that's intelligent regret. It doesn't mean guilt, it doesn't mean, anything like that. It just means clearly understanding that this thing is going to come back to haunt you. Mm-hmm. That's intelligent regret. That destroys the power of the bad deed. Okay? Just to feel sorry, that destroys the energy of the bad deed. That's a very big blow to the energy of that karma. To understand and feel bad about what you did. Mm-hmm. Say Nyepale, Larn Dope, Top. Nyepale, Larn Dope, Top. Nyepa means bad deed. Le Larn Dopa means to restrain yourself in the future. Okay? To restrain yourself. When non-Buddhists hear about this 4 powers, they often come up to me and say, you guys have really got it easy. It's like a morning after pill. You can do whatever bad deed you want, and then you just do the 4 forces after that. And no problem. Most of the karma has gone away. You can do whatever you want. You can do a karma that will take you to hell, knowingly, and then 10 minutes later do the 4 forces. It's a real nice life you guys got. Not true because of number 3. Number 3 means part of the purification is to keep yourself from doing again. Okay? And this is the nuts and bolts of purification. This is the guts of purification. This is the main energy behind purification. Is the intention not to do it again. The decision or the resolution not to do it again. If you don't have that, and if you treat the 4 forces like a morning after pill, they never will work. Okay? Because number 3 says you have to truly intend not to do it again. Okay? Now, if it's something like getting mad at your boss, and you sit down at your meditation cushion at 8:30, and you got to go to work at 9, right? And you say, I resolve never to get mad at my boss again. What new bad deed will you then collect? Lying. Okay? If you say, I'm never going to get mad at my boss again, and you know by 9:30 something's going to happen, and you get mad at him, then on top of the bad deed, you collect the bad deed of lying. So the oral instruction of the great lamas, of the Lamrim tradition is, set a time limit. Okay? Set a time limit. Set a realistic time limit during which you will not do this thing again. Okay? If you cannot give it up completely, which is unlikely, then set a reasonable time limit. And I always tell people, and it's not a joke, that I have broken the decision again before I finish the 4 forces. Sitting in meditation, figuring out that I'm not going to have a bad thought about my boss again, or my fellow Dharma student again. I have broken this one before I got up from the meditation pillow. So make it realistic. If it's a thought which is bothering you a lot, You might want to say 5 minutes, you know. But normally 24 hours or something like that, you know, like I won't get mad for the next 24 hours at my boss. I will, and the point is that the decision not to do it for that time period makes it very easy to keep your awareness at a high level. You know, you can stand concentrating on not getting mad at a certain person for 24 hours. We can do that. That's the point, by the way, of a one-day vow. Okay, that's the point of a one-day vow. Okay, I can't keep these things my whole life, but if I really concentrate for 24 hours, I could probably do it. As long as I could break it the second day, you know, the next day, you know. I mean, I can resist for 24 hours, you know, if I really work on it, and if I don't think about anything else particularly. So choose a realistic time limit. You know, it's all up to you. It's very dependent on your own, you know, how strong is it for you, how bad is it for you. I can imagine being involved in an abortion, for example. In that kind of thing, you could say, I won't do it again in my life. I set a time limit of the rest of my life. You know, I mean, those big ones that take a lot of work and they're very clear, or, you know, very easy to define. You could say, okay, rest of my life I won't do it. And I know about those things. So, but on other ones like mental ones, you better keep it short. Okay, you better make it short. It's more realistic. All right? But I repeat, this is the essence of purification. If this part goes well, the purification works. If this part is not strong, and you really don't intend to stop, if it's really not your wish to stop, the purification will not work. And I'm also talking about Vajrasattva, high tantric, you know, all this stuff. The guts of Vajrasattva meditation, purification, is exactly the same thing. The four forces are the essence of Vajrasattva meditation practice. So if you don't have the four, if you think that visualizing some white guy in your head is going to be more powerful than these, or that you don't need these if you have that picture of a person on your head, it's not that way. These must be the essence of that practice as you do it. It's obviously very, very powerful if on top of that you add that. But the whole point of that practice is this. Okay, okay, what's number 4? And this is the last thing for this class. Okay. Say Nyembo, Kuntu, Chepe, Top. Nyembo, Kuntu, Chepe, Top. Okay. Nyembo means antidote, counteragent. Okay. Antidote or counteragent. Okay. Nyembo. Kuntu Chepa means to apply, in this case. Okay. Some kind of activity that you do to make up for what you did. Okay, you can think of it as a make-up activity. Okay, a make-up activity. Some kind of activity to make up for what you did. I'll give you an example of one, and then I'll give you an example of Z1. Okay. I have a fellow student in New Jersey who's Mongolian. When he came to this country in the 60s, he was immediately grabbed by... they gave him a green card, and then they drafted him like a week later. Thanks a lot. And he went to Vietnam. And they gave him a machine gun. At first they pulled out all his teeth, and they said, you don't want to get a toothache in the jungle, so we'll pull out your teeth for you. So they pulled out his teeth, and didn't give him dentures because they said, you'll choke on it if you get shot. Took him out to the jungle, gave him a machine gun, said, here you go. After a couple of weeks, they're in a convoy. The convoy gets attacked by Viet Cong, and he's standing on the truck shooting this machine gun into the bushes. You know, he doesn't know if he hit anybody. So he comes to my lama, you know, who's his root lama, and says, what should I do? You know, what should I do to make up for it? So he teaches him the 4 powers, and then he says, okay, the make-up activity for you. Mongolians love to eat sheep. Okay, sheep are like chocolate for Mongolians. And in my neighborhood, they will even keep them in their backyards to cut the grass, and then they'll kill them and eat them. And so my Lama says, I know that your father is keeping 2 sheep for that purpose in his backyard. So he says, I want you to buy them from your father, and I want you to take care of them until they die. You know, feed them and care for them until they die. Move them over to your backyard. You know? So he does. And you know how long sheep live? Like, he thought like a couple of years, right? 16, 17 years. He took care of these 2 sheep, you know, and that was his makeup activity. So it's often useful to pick a makeup activity which somehow relates to what you did. If you were engaged in killing, and I could say abortion or something like that, or some kind of killing in a war or something, then a very good makeup activity would involve some kind of protection of other beings' lives. Okay? And like that, you can imagine the rest. The ultimate, and that's the last point today, the ultimate, and by the way, it's very good to read scriptures, to circumambulate a stupa, say 1 round of mantras, particular mantra or something like that. Those are all very useful. Those all qualify. But the ultimate one, by far, is the study of emptiness. Okay? The ultimate make-up activity for everything is the study of emptiness. So I'd say you have this notebook, you know, you got this notebook through the kindness of one of our, can I say, do you mind if I say that? Where is she? Where's Kendall's mommy? Anyway, Mommy Kendall has graciously offered all the cost of the notebooks, okay? So, I mean, I agreed to pay for it, and then I was like, gee, I wonder how I'm going to do that. And she offered all the expense of the notebook. So now you have this notebook. And anytime you commit a bad deed, as part of your purification, really encourage you to just pick 1 page and read it. Doesn't even really matter. Open it up at some point in the DiamondCutterSutra and read it and try to digest it. Okay? That is the ultimate make-up force. Okay? That is the ultimate one. Now you tell me why. Why would understanding emptiness have such relevance to being able to stop your bad deeds? Interesting. Well, it's about, yeah. Yeah, you won't react, okay? That's the punchline. Okay, if you understand the emptiness of that irritating object, whether it's the king cutting your fingers off, or your boss blaming you for his last faux pas, or maybe you even did something, but that doesn't happen very often. That's the ultimate refuge, that's the ultimate protection, that is the ultimate way to purify bad deeds. You won't want to do it anymore if you understand his emptiness. Okay? As your understanding of emptiness gets more and more correct and stable. And by the way, at the beginning it's like, forget it, it doesn't do much. You know, at the beginning of this process of studying about emptiness, it's not much use, frankly. You know, it doesn't really help that much. You have to keep working at it. You have to keep reviewing it. You have to keep studying it. And then at some point it becomes an atom bomb that stops all the mental afflictions. It's the only thing that can stop the mental afflictions. And all bad activities are caused by mental afflictions. So naturally it's the most effective way, it's the most effective makeup you can do. And that's why the Diamond Sutra is talking about it here. Okay, that's why the Diamond Sutra is saying, if you study this sutra, what? Expect some disasters, okay? I mean, in Dharamsala, when John and me and other people were first there, I don't know, you remember? I mean, so many disasters, people dying, people going up in flames, people falling off cliffs, people getting hepatitis for 6 months, you know. I mean, those were the good old days. You know, I mean, people were really trying to practice hard. And just major obstacles would come because their karma was ripening. You know, the study of emptiness accelerates the ripening of karma. So I'm not saying we prefer to think the headache thing would happen, right? And it will. I mean, don't get scared and don't get, you know, panicky, and don't throw the book away. You know? Do a nice, gentle confession, you know, purification ceremony with those 4. And as the obstacles come, which come with every human endeavor, rejoice. You know, okay, my back aches from this meditation. Interpret it and take it as a ripening of those karmas, and rejoice about it. Try to not be thrown off balance by it. You know, accept it as part of the practice, and work your way through it. Okay? Will it hurt? Yes. Do you have to react to it? No. Okay? It's the whole thing of being spread-eagled on the ground and having someone, you know. So don't worry that you're going to have major. It doesn't have to be major. The sutra says, and it's in your reading, it can ripen as a headache or a backache or something like that. Poison oak. Where's Amy? Amy's been having a real good class. That's all I have. You have a few questions, and then we'll take a